So, hi everyone, and thank you all for coming. We have some very unique places that are joining us. Lebanon just came in, Cape Town, one of my favorite cities in the world, someplace I used to go all the time. And seeing some of my friends that I've worked with their schools come in. So I just want to tell you that this series is going to be a scaffolded approach where I don't talk too long because I don't want you to have to ingest too much information, and where I kind of show you what I'm seeing from around the globe, quite frankly, and some of the discussions I hope we'll start to have. I know some people in our chat, and they're already having these conversations. So if you're doing some of the things that I'm going to talk about, it's a time for you to give yourself a pat on the back. And if it's not something that you're talking about yet, it's something that needs to be talked about as we move forward. And so many great places coming in. I love seeing this. The Bahamas. We all wish we were there with you. So I am running this myself. So I'm going to be going back and forth from my slides to say some things and then back in to look at the comments. So bear with me. But my name's Holly. You obviously know that because you got here probably from my email or you follow me on LinkedIn or something. And I just want to tell you that some of the things that I'm going to talk about today, actually most all of them, I come to schools and do. So if you're interested in having someone come and talk about this and maybe having a different voice, you could scan that QR code and get to that. I also bring that PD. I don't want to talk about that, but I wanted to make sure I mentioned it. And we're going to start with looking at this idea of student AI literacy. And something I said in the keynote I gave on Saturday here in California is that there's been a loophole, and that's what I want to start with. And this loophole that students are using AI and that they found a way to bypass the struggle of teachers not using it, and they're going in and using it. And here's some of the statistics that I've gotten from my own surveys. And this I've surveyed kids that I work with. It's usually a leadership team of kids, so I want you to kind of know the background of that. And out of 800 plus kids that I've asked, 96, it's actually closer to 97. I probably should have put it up one, but 97% of them will admit to using ChatGPT. On another note, I ask them if they use ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude. I ask like AI programs, and most of them answer ChatGPT, which I find interesting because I'm such a Claude person and I'm doing other things, but they're still kind of in this ChatGPT mode. A couple of them said they use Gemini. Some said they had not even heard of Gemini. So that's just a little something for us to kind of know. You're going to hear some dogs snoring in the background. I apologize. But I found it most interesting that they would not admit to using ChatGPT to do their work. And many of them, when I've had side conversations with them, say they're afraid to because of AI detectors, but they are using it. So what are they using it for? How are they using it? We've heard horror stories of kids using it and it told them to do things they shouldn't do. But it's gotten to the point in 2026 that we really need to talk about what does it mean for a student now to use it in our classrooms? And that's what I want to talk to you about. Let me go back. This is where the switching is going to be kind of unique for me. But why are they hiding it? And they have told me that they think their teachers don't understand it. There are some they think do, and that they see AI as an essential tool for their future. So they're going to use it, but they don't talk about it with their teachers. Even in the times when I've been really chummy with kids, and like I think I can get them to tell me that they're using it to maybe write papers, they won't. They really kind of feel like, we're not doing that right now, but when a teacher allows us to use AI, we 100% will use that. And so when we think of that, that's not an AI problem, this thing that they're using it. It's a design problem for us in the classrooms. So what can that look like? So I have this new saying that the safest AI policy isn't a ban, it's a lesson plan. We're going to look at that. We're not going to be able to do all of it today because I don't want to spend too much time talking, but I'm going to give you kind of the foundation. In our next session, which is, I believe, April 8th, I'm bringing in a person from an Indiana school district. Her name is Nadine, who is implementing this in a big district. And what does it look like for her? She's actually doing it very successfully. So that's why I wanted her to come in. I'll bring in the lessons from the school districts I work with, but that will be the next thing. Like, what does that look like when you start to roll it out to get teachers to be thinking like this? And I just have to say this, I don't need to spend too much time here. And I can just hear the dog snoring in the background, and it's so embarrassing. I don't know what you guys can hear, but anyway. But it's time to move past AI detectors. And why I say this, I want to give you a little example from one of my very good friends, Ken Shelton. So his daughter is in 11th grade, and she's taking the AP review seminar review thing, and they have to write a paper. And he's been working on her with writing the paper. He's made sure that, yes, some of the research might have happened in ChatGPT or something like this, but he sat with her, she wrote the paper, and she turned it in. Now, before she turned it in, her teacher gave her AI feedback. That AI feedback went at the top of the paper. She used some of it and then turned it into this AP program. And she got it back and said she's used 100% AI. And Ken and her know that she didn't. But what he explained to me is the amount of stress that caused for her. This is a really important class that's happening her junior year before she applies or during the time she applies for college. And she is so stressed out, like she just wants to give up. And we have to understand, and I think most of the people on this session understand that this is just something we can't do anymore. And we have to get past this idea that students need to be shut down to using AI because they're not going to think. I was able to play a really funny video in my keynote on Saturday that showed what I think teachers think about kids using AI. And they were just like, everything they did, they had to check with AI until the AI didn't have any more like use rate for them. And they were like, I don't know what to do. I think that teachers think that's going to happen, but we know that students in many cases have been using AI for 2 years and they haven't become non-thinkers. They don't use AI for everything. I think they're really aware of what it can do. So I showed this also on Saturday. I show it all the time. But these were the cases of AI use in 2024. And they're very similar to asking I can't even say it anymore, asking Google something. So generating ideas. Our number 3 is a specific search. Our number, if we go down to number 10, it's general advice. That was our kind of Google era of AI use. Then in 2025, things started to shift. People were like organizing their lives. They were having it check email. They were doing it for healthier living, creativity things that you can't do in the Google era. And they were getting to see that. But now in 2026, we have a completely different approach happening with AI. AI is now building systems. Like I've been wanting to do this AI literacy series for months, probably a year. And I couldn't do all the things, the emails, the building the website part, sending the reminders, putting up a Google calendar link that you could add. All of those things I haven't been able to do because it took too much time with my travel. But now with Claude, we have built this whole little system, including many of the slides you'll see today in, I don't know, maybe like an hour or 2. And so right now, AI is going to be the thing that we build with. Jensen Huang, who you're going to see in a minute, has said that we're at this place with AI that we might have reached artificial general intelligence, where in a loosely defined term is where AI can do everything a human can do and better. So if I'm over here building all of these things with Claude and we're not teaching kids about AI, we're going to get ourselves in a kind of pretty big situation in terms of what kids will be able to do for their jobs. Someone asked me yesterday on a podcast, like, what do I see when I leave the country? Does depend on the country. But when I go to other countries, most people, like I think New Zealand's one of them. They're not saying like, oh, I don't want my kid using AI. AI is bad. Like in the US, we're in this place where we are fighting over sides of a coin really right now. And then some people are like, oh, I don't think kids should use AI, and we're fighting. We think they can. And in other countries, that same kind of argument isn't happening. Now, we do have people from other countries. You can tell me if that's happening. I think it's probably happening a little bit in Canada, maybe, but not in the same way. Just from the conversations I've had with Canadians recently, it's just not in the same way. So here's how we're going to use AI in 2026. And not preparing students to understand that is going to be very problematic.
When I'm interacting with
So I'm going to take you into Jensen Huang. Jensen Huang is the and if you guys can't hear this video, I'll go over and make sure I'm watching the comments. Jensen Huang is the CEO of, I just brought up, the CEO of NVIDIA. He is the guy that makes the AI chips that run AI. And really, we wouldn't have AI without his kind of genius. So this is what he says about using AI. This is really important because this is the kind of thing we need to be talking about with teachers. We're going to talk mostly about students, but right now, as we're talking about how we get teachers to use this, I want you to listen to how he uses AI.
When I'm interacting with AI, it's a questioning system. You're asking it questions. And so I think that in order to formulate good questions, you have to be thinking, you have to be analytical, you have to be reasoning yourself. In order to when you receive an answer from an AI, I wouldn't just receive it. Usually what I do is I say, are you sure this is the best answer you can provide? I take the answer from one AI, I give it to the other AI, I ask them to critique itself. This is no different than getting 3 opinions. Ask the same question of multiple AIs, and I ask them to compare each other's notes and then, give me the best of all the answers. And so I think that process of critiquing, criticizing the answers of your critical thinking enhances cognitive skills.
So what he's talking about is so important. We have in our 2023 AI policies given tools to teachers in which they can fill out a form and get a lesson plan back. And I understood we needed that at the beginning. People didn't know how to prompt engineer. They didn't know how to do certain things. But we are now living in 2026. And even for those teachers who haven't gotten themselves on the AI train, we'll call it yet, if we teach them right now this triangulation of asking all the AIs, in this case, it's Gemini, Claude, and ChatGPT. But if you live in a Asian country, it's going to be DeepSeek and some other things. But if we use this triangulation and teach teachers to not accept a lesson plan from one tool, then we're going to have better results. We're going to have them thinking about AI. And at the beginning, people talked about prompt engineering. But what prompt engineering really is and was back in the day is this idea that we put in these magic words and we get out these magic results. Now you need to be thinking in terms of context. What's the context of the problem that I'm going to put into ChatGPT? Then I'm going to ask Claude if he agrees or disagrees. And I hate to say they. And then I'm going to ask Gemini what they think as well. So let me just show you an example of this. One of the things that we used early on was this lesson planning tools, whatever they were. And we asked for DOK questions. DOK questions. Someone just said using ChatGPT and Gemini seems to give me the best results as thought partners. You've got to add in Claude. Your life will change. You do all 3, life's going to change. But yes, that whole asking both. But so DOK questions, depth of knowledge. I want to show you a little example. I'm going to use a basic prompt, make it better. That's something people put their nose up at, I just don't use make it better. I have this prompt engineering. Let me show you what happens when I do this. And I'm going to ask ChatGPT first to make me some DOK questions for chapter 6 of The Outsiders. So you can see I'm putting it in. I need DOK questions for chapter 6. Now, chapter 6 is a really important and pivotal part in this book, The Outsiders. And for those from other countries who might not read this. And it gives me some really good DOK questions. So I take those now, and it doesn't take very long, and I go ask Gemini. Well, Gemini says those are good, but how about if we strengthen this by doing them via each of the the themes. Sorry, I almost lost it. Do it by identity, do it by sacrifice, do it by family. And those turned out like so good. But I didn't stop there. I went and I asked Claude. And I said, Claude, what do you think about these? And I copy them. You can see me doing it right here. I copy and paste into Claude. And I said, should I break, what should I do with these? How can I make them better? And it says, well, some of them are good. Keep the themes. I like that. But there's a couple that are a little like, you need to be more direct. And then it says, but you might add a cross-theme synthesis question at the end. Something like, which theme from chapter 6, heroism, sacrifice, Dali's complexity, or family, do you think will matter most for the rest of the novel? Now, that's good. I never thought of that when I was teaching The Outsiders. And each of them found a way to up this process. But we've been having teachers go to a tool and ask for lesson plans. What we have to be teaching teachers right now is that they need to be asking all the models. Maybe you start in a magic school. Maybe you start in a school AI, but you don't end there. You always end by asking other models. And so this is an important thing that we need to be thinking about in next year's trainings when those teachers maybe come back in the summer. They've got to understand that there's a critical analysis that has to happen. Maybe we have them build something. Maybe we have them go to Canvas or Claude. And I understand that you can't have, these are free models and can't have teachers paying for all these models. But I do think we're at the place where a teacher is going to need to maybe pay for one on their own, and maybe you have Gemini at school. And I'll talk about it a little bit about Gemini. My thoughts right now in March of 2026, they will change. So let's keep going. Let me go over to my thing. So I just want to make sure that that's clear, that when we're talking about getting kids ready, when we're talking about getting teachers ready, if teachers are not in the large language models, they won't know that Claude is doing all the things it's doing right now. I made a video that got thousands and thousands of views where I'm like using Claude and I'm like saying, oh my gosh, it's happening. And it's like an office skit, kind of like, it's happening. What do we do? And what I meant by that is that I think this is AGI. Do we understand what's happening right now with Claude? Like the things it can do and build? And if a teacher is not in a large language model, they'll never know these things are happening. And then it's going to be retraining them. Oh, now we got to have a PD again. And that's just not going to work. So this isn't a place where we're going to have a point B. It's not change management in the way that we've thought about it before. There is no point B. Point B changes tomorrow to point C, changes the next day to point D. So this is about scaffolding like we do in classrooms. So if we help our teachers understand that AI literacy is more than prompting, and then we also help our students begin to understand that, then those are some of our planning conversations for 2026. And that we need to be talking about context over prompt engineering. We need to be talking about asking better questions in that inquiry process. And we need to be talking about giving students agency. In my keynote on Saturday, I talked about it being the right format, changing the format from some things. And I'll talk about that a little bit. But what it should look like, we need safe environments. We'll talk about that today. We need grounded models. Like I love to start my kids in Notebook LM. Chatbots with guardrails. I've been really fond of school AI. In fact, I've kind of put all my eggs in the school AI basket, but I recently saw something on Magic School that made me go, oh, hold on. I may need to be looking at other things. I love Brisk. So those chatbots that these 3 programs provide, and then maybe we start with the teacher showing it on the screen first through a Gemini a prompting or session, and students deconstruct that. So here's what student AI literacy looks like for me in a lesson plan. So giving students a thought partner, giving them agency. So if they have to write a paper, a persuasive essay, maybe it's a science project, I don't know, they have something that helps them do something they're interested in. And then they have this access to instant feedback. These three, I'm going to go into much more depth on the next one on April 8th, along with my friend. But here are some of the first steps. First steps for thinking about what should kids be in now. And the first steps are, I love Notebook LM because it's grounded AI that I put the sources in. And when a kid asks a question from it, and I'll show it in a second, it gets it from only the sources I put in. So they get to interact with an semi AI model on their own. I'm also using tools like School AI, maybe soon Magic School, which is, if any of you know me, is like a big change for me. On the student side, because it has guardrails. And what I saw in Magic School that made me go, oh my gosh, I have to rethink this a little bit, is I saw that once the kids were done inside the chatbot, School AI provided them with next steps. Here's what you need to do to learn this thing. Here's what you don't know. And I don't see that happening in some of the other ones. And then it allows them to create their own chatbot to learn those things. And I was like, hold the phone. I've been waiting for that. They're making it. So I was like, I may have to like eat my words. Like they might be creating something that I think is very agency forward. And then there's this possibility of using maybe something like Gemini. However, here's my concerns with this, and you're going to have to make the decision on your own. Only the admin in Gemini right now can see the chats. Recently, Gemini came and said, but you could use like security programs like Guardian or whatever, Go Guardian. And then you can see what the kids are putting on their screen. There's just so much better that I can do with Notebook LM, which is also Gemini, quite frankly. But, and a School AI or a Magic School or a Briss, that like, I don't know if I want to give kids this tool until I've taught them how to use it to think. And I can do that first when I have them in one of these chatbots with guardrails. Then I'll step into this other thing. That's just how I see it happening best. But please know that I'm sitting with kids watching what they do with AI when we give it to them. I'm sitting right next to them. I'm walking around the classroom, seeing what happens. The teacher's often still kind of doing some instruction, kind of doing some other things. I'm getting this opportunity to see, what do the kids do when we give them these guardrails? What happens when I give them Gemini and just be like, okay, I hope it goes well. And it, to be honest with you, it doesn't, because they don't know how to think yet. So I have to get that thinking process in. What I love, and I'm not going to spend much time on this, but what I love about Notebook LM is I put in the sources. They're my sources. The kids can ask questions inside this grounded AI part in the middle. And then I'm changing the format. I'm allowing for interactive elements, flashcards, mind maps. Maybe they make a slide deck. Maybe they can make whatever they want to learn the content. The content's good content. We're just changing the format through this. We're making a textbook interactive, and teachers can grasp this Notebook LM quick. They can see the power quick. So this needs to be on your, and it probably is for some of you, you've probably already done it, but this needs to be on your like 2026 summer learning journey. Every teacher should understand the power of this. So I'm going to come back over really quickly and just see if there are any questions that have come in. And I apologize that, so someone asked if I could define grounded model. Grounded means it's grounded in the sources I put in. So the sources that I'm doing, it's using AI to maybe make predictions on something, but it's doing it based on the things I put in. And so it's not going to have any hallucinations. And I like that. And someone just said, yeah, Magic School did a great job at this. I got to tell you, I'm really liking that they give the students the agency, and they have this new beta quiz that when a kid's done with the quiz, I'm not a fan of quizzes, but we got to give them. Then it says when they're done, what they need to do next. We're missing that in some of the other programs. So I was impressed. So Oh, and the infographics, that's a whole nother ballgame, right? Anyway, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to talk about these 5 strategic moments. So we're going to go into the student part now. We've talked about what like teachers need to understand, that we need to get off of this thing where we are thinking that teachers need to be AI literate for us to bring it into classrooms. That's wrong. These 2 things need to happen in tandem. If you're like, well, let me get my teachers up to snuff. No, you've got to do these 2 things in tandem. Both are equally as important. You're going to find, and you know this from other things, some teachers will never become AI literate. So then we just never give a kid Notebook LM. Like, that's not fair to that kid. So if you're doing these 2 things in tandem, I like to do it this way when I do a training. I spend the morning on the teacher's AI literacy, and I spend the afternoon talking about learning with AI. And it looks like this with these 5 strategic places where we can do it. So I'm going to go into these 5 next session much deeper, but I want to show you that these are like the way I scaffold. So I'm working with this school, and I work with the teachers. We do these great lessons. The kids stand up and thank me. I leave the room high-fiving the teacher, and then I come back and they haven't done anything on their own. And I'm like, what's going on? Someone yesterday told me it's sort of like you're their personal trainer. When you're in the class, they'll do it, but like it's like you need a personal trainer to meet you at the gym or you don't go. And it's kind of that scenario. So I'm trying to figure out, what do I need to do to make it accessible for every teacher that they don't need me to show them ways. And these 5 little moments have been like easy for them to wrap their head around. I even have one teacher at a school I work with who has this little graphic up. And like when they're lesson planning and thinking, they look over at the thing and they're like, oh yeah, I'll just do a checkpoint. So back over here, and I have to get back to the slides. We have this like idea that we have this great content, the Oklahoma history that I showed before. For a Californian, maybe that's not the greatest content, but actually Oklahoma has some of the most interesting history in the United States. And so we have this great content, but we've been giving it to kids in the wrong format, worksheets, textbooks. And we can simply change that format by just going into something like Notebook LM or having them do something like this. So here is an example I'm going to tell you about. We were reading Lord of the Flies, and we wanted to change the format. We wanted to change the way in which kids interacted with this. Old school thinking says we give them a worksheet and they fill in the blanks here, and they fill in like the open-ended question. But this is really constrained. It's constrained to the amount of questions, the questions someone else made. It's delayed in its feedback. I got to take this home as the teacher and grade it possibly, or have the kid next to him grade it. And then they get it back. Like the feedback has too much time in the loop. It's static in that it's just these questions and you can't go anywhere else, and also in that way limited. So we took these kids, and I'm sorry that the sound is on for this video. I apologize. I meant to turn it down. But we took these kids and we put them in this case, it's a school AI chatbot. This could happen in Magic School. This can happen in Brisk. And we said, go ask these 3 main characters in Lord of the Flies, Jack, Piggy, and Ralph. Go ask them any questions you want. See what would happen if Piggy didn't do this one thing. What would have happened to the story? And when they got to do that, we found that they were super engaged and that they were really into it. And I heard a lot of oh moments and like, I didn't think of that. And then I had a kid say, I don't think Jack would have done that. And I said, push back. Tell the AI chatbot, you don't think that would happen, and have a conversation, push back, because you know what? It could be wrong. And I'm trying to teach students in a lesson that AI has limitations. I asked him, we did a form after this, and we asked them, like, what did they like about this activity? And they said they loved being able to talk to the characters and think about different interpretations. And they said they felt so connected and invested when they were doing this. And I thought to myself, I've never heard a kid ever say that about the worksheet I just showed you. Oh, I feel so connected. That doesn't happen. So with the change of just the format here, they were able to really interact. And so this is, if I go back, and I'm going to just go back to this thing, this is scaffolded support. This is number 5. And so I show teachers these examples from classrooms. I have one for all of them. They're very strong. And once I do that, they really can wrap their head around, okay, here's where I start. And if we start here, then as the AI changes, they're going to be ready to moonshot some other things. But we've got to have this scaffolded approach for them too. And this has just been a game changer for me with these 5 little points. So the students told us that they realize that AI can imitate what it knows, but not always accurately. And for me, that was a clear sign of early critical thinking about AI's limitations. And that was important to me. So I'm teaching AI literacy. I'm not teaching them how to prompt. I'm teaching them to push back. I'm teaching them to ask for answers in different ways. But I'm not sitting with a lesson that's like, we have AI lessons today, kids, get out your worksheet. We're teaching them it in authenticity, something that we've always needed to be able to do. And so the kid is in the classroom doing this. The teacher is learning that I can ask my 3 experts, and we're teaching this student in AI literacy together. And maybe like sometimes I work at schools where they have a Tuesday afternoon, people can drop by with like one of the TOSAs or tech coaches, and they'll just be like, well, today we're going to learn a little something about Claude, or we're going to like continue to talk through these. But we have to realize that we don't have a point B. So right now we're just scaffolding so that when point C comes, that teacher's ready. And for 2026, everyone has to be talking about how do we get this in the hands of kids in the way that I just showed you. And in the ways I'll show you on April 8th, there will be many more. And one thing that's super important that I think most of you understand is that like a lot of people are like, well, we have our teachers in Gemini. I'm all in on that because Gemini has promised some data privacy things. Gemini has promised some things around PII, though I'm not 100% sure about PII, which is personal identifiable information. Because if a parent, and I'm going to use US terms here, does a FOIPA, which is a Freedom of Information Act, if they do that and the student's name has gone into this system, I'm pretty sure that will come up in a FOIPA request, which again is Freedom of Information Act, that parents can see anytime that you've used the student's name in any communication. So we need to teach teachers that yes, Gemini does sometimes, and same for Copilot in Microsoft schools, but Gemini does provide another layer of security here, but you shouldn't be putting any kids' information into any of these large language models ever. You need to strip that out. And if you're going to take in some quiz information and then put it into Gemini and ask about some things, you just need to really take out those student names. Now, I worry about this though, and I don't know how this plays out. I worry, and I work with schools who are like, we only want the teachers using Gemini at school. And I worry because Gemini is not doing what Claude does right now, not even close. Canvas is great and it can build some stuff, but Claude is, I just don't even know how to put words on what Claude's doing right now. Anyone else who's using Claude and could talk about it in the comments, but I need teachers to understand all these 3 models. I go to Gemini for certain things. I go to ChatGPT for certain things. I go to Claude for certain things. I don't build a website and go ask ChatGPT. I go to Claude. But when I'm asking questions about lesson planning, I go to all 3. So let me go back. Sorry, shouldn't have to announce. I should just go back and you won't know. But here's the thing I want you as I end this for today. And then remember on April 8th, we'll go into exactly what this looks like in the classroom. There's something I've done a lot of parent workshops at this point. And I've had really intimate exposure to parents at one school where we're meeting with them all the time. And I hear their concerns. And their concerns always start out with their kid might come home and say, oh, we were using AI today, or this is AI and it's Notebook LM or whatever. They only hear ChatGPT if they hear AI. So I work with parents on a monthly basis to walk, I don't know if it's monthly, but it's almost monthly, to walk them through what this looks like. I want them to understand Notebook LM and understand grounded AI. I want them to see a school AI chatbot, maybe a Magic School or Brisk chatbot, to see that it is guardrailed. I want them to see the information I'm getting about their student. And so I can show them how I use that information to do better lessons for them. And I'm hoping that all of these programs will actually start to think about the parent. So I have a friend right now. She's recently lost her sister and her niece, and she also lost her two in-laws all within a month. And she just told me that, like, I don't have the energy right now because I'm in this place to help my kids with their schoolwork. And there are parents going through divorce. There are parents who can't help kids with schoolwork. There are all of these situations. And I'm hoping that these companies, their next move is to send information to parents about what their kid's doing and where they're lacking, and say, and guess what? You could do this in Notebook LM for them. You could do this in a chatbot for them, and even help their and I'll look at that question. I saw that. But the next step is to help parents help kids. So right now we have teachers who get data from these chatbots that I can use for my next lesson. I can use to understand misconceptions. I can use to understand what they're going through. We'll go through this on April 8th. But I'm hoping that the next case scenario is helping parents, because if we have parents in this community, we're going to be able to do so much more. So let me look at this question. What's the earliest age? Okay. So Notebook LM, I'm probably thinking middle school. I'm not saying that's a for sure. It's really text heavy. And, but I will tell you, and you'll see it next week or on April 8th. It's not next week, but you'll see I use it with first graders. I use it with second graders. I've used AI with kindergartners. I might leave the kindergartners off for a second, like let them, that would be like second semester, last 3 weeks of school with the kindergartners. But it's amazing what it can do in first grade by a curiosity spark. Just letting them ask questions, and you'll see this next time, about the stars and the constellations before we learn about it. So that little 5-minute curiosity spark, all of these things, I'm going to go back to them really quick. All of these little things that I'm talking about with these little lesson things, those are meant to be 5 minutes, not give over your lesson plan. Maybe 10 minutes if kids are typing in and they're in fourth grade. I've seen that happen before, where fourth grade took 20 minutes because the teacher did want them to type. And I'm like, they could use the microphone. And she's like, no, but I want them to have some typing in this too. So it just depends, but they're meant to be 5 to 10 minutes. And it really gives such important information about where do I need to go next once I get that information from the kids. So this is how this is going to be broken up. I'm going to do these. I'm going to be looking at your questions, and I'm going to come back over here to see if we have any others. I'm going to try and make these bite-sized so that I can also put them into a podcast, so you could maybe listen to them another time. And I'm just going to scaffold you through some of the things you need to be thinking about for this 2026-2027 school year. If your school is not talking about this AI in the hands of kids in one of these safe ways, they have to be. And just go use Claude, and you'll understand why I'm saying this, because things are changing. We need systems to change. We need to all kinds of things, but we really need to not think of this as change management, because we don't know point B. We need to think about this more like we're changing and help scaffolding a learner to be able to do anything with this AI. And in this case, the learner, most of the time, is the teacher. So, okay, I'm going to go look at some, will someone give me a Claude? Is incredible. I love it. So any courses out there so Notebook LM. So, and you know what, stuff like this helps me. Maybe I'll do one but you could go to TikTok and find a bunch of people, or YouTube, talking about Notebook LM, and it will be easy to find. Notebook LM is so easy. And I was sitting next to a teacher the other day, and one of the people was showing inside of Gemini, there's something called Canvas. And the person was showing Canvas. And she said, "How did you learn all this?" And I like raised my hand and said, "You want to know how I learned to use Canvas?" I asked. I asked Gemini. So Notebook LM is a Gemini tool. Go to Gemini and say, "How can I get started with Notebook LM?" And it will give you step-by-step instructions. So just think about it in terms of ask. And that's another thing that Jensen Wong goes on to say in that video. He's like, if you don't know how to use AI, you just ask AI. So think that way. And you need to get your teachers thinking that way. Not like, well, I don't know Canvas. So, and Canvas is different from Canvas, the LLMS. But I don't know Canvas, so I don't know what to do here. Ask. So, okay, let me look back up and see any courses. Okay, Notebook, Snorkel. Oh, I'll be talking about Snorkel on April 8th. Snorkel will change your life. And it'll change your teachers' lives. And I've been teaching for 30 years. I've been working with teachers for probably 20 now. And Snorkel is the one tool that every teacher will use. We've never had that happen before. So Snorkel is really important. Snorkel gives instant feedback. I'll be talking about it April 8th. I may, based on some of the things I'm seeing here, do some like side sessions that like, here's how you use Snorkel. Here's how you use Notebook LM. Because I have like, I mean, I'm not home very much, but this month I'm home like 4 extra days. Might as well use them to help teachers. Okay. And yes, you can, I'm going to send you this webinar. You can send it out to teachers. I'm going to actually stop it, and I'm going to end. Oh no, I can't end this stream. That won't work because I didn't want to keep answering questions. And so people got bored when they were listening. And someone asked, what about Canva? I love Canva. That's more for me, a creation tool. They can do some AI image making. It's good. I think Canva is going to keep going with some stuff like vibe coding. But, so that's just a different conversation. And someone asked me what I think about Flint. Love Flint. I have not used it with kids yet, but people that I trust have, and they said it's fantastic. So I'm going to start using it with some of my little guinea pigs and see what I think of it. And so I'll have like more soon, probably by April 8th, actually. Okay. I'm not going to scroll too far back up, but thank you. Now, are there any questions you would like to be answered in the next 4 sessions? If you're still here and you have time to write those in, that will help me know what to do. And then I'm just going to stop this pretty soon. I think if you put the comments in, even when I stop streaming, I'll be able to see them. Flint sits on Claude, it says, so that's a good thing. They all sit on Claude, as a matter of fact, though. Okay, thank you all for coming. Now, again, each one's going to have a little bit more information. I just wanted to give you this to think as you're sitting down with AI committees. And here's another little tip. I wouldn't do an AI policy. I would do guidelines. Policy has to be approved by the board, and we're not dealing with A point B. So guidelines can shift. Anyway, thank you. And we'll add to each of these conversations so that by the end on May 4th, you will feel like you have like what you need to make sure that we're doing this correctly. And I will definitely think about those mini sessions. I'll put it out in my email. So thanks, everyone. Maybe I'll bring in some Flint people. Okay, I'm going to end. Thank you. Oh, I didn't end it. I was reading questions.